Hey, HR friends, welcome back. So, we're here to talk about the last 12-hour or half day segment in the emotional 6.5 day sequence. Now, this was the first 6 days. This is the last 12 hours. We're going to talk about why it's only 12 hours in this and what effect that causes when we get down to the 24-hour graph. Now, we're just going to review day 6. That's what we talked about yesterday. And day 6, you could see that there was some agitation happening. We talked about that. The third person was going to pop up, and you can see that that's going to continue into this 12-hour segment. Now, for the people who are trying to sleep through this 12 hours, that might be a little bit harder for you. And for the people that are awake, you really need to pay attention. You really need to make sure you're staying calm and focused. You do not want to react to these. We do not need more social tension in this world. We got enough of that right now. Now, first person perspectives are laying out kind of easy here. That's good news. Now, what's the difference between these two? Well, these have to do with agitations and irritations with the people that surround you. These have to do with agitation and irritations of the bigger picture stuff, like politics, religion, all those subjects that no one likes to talk about. And when they do, they argue. Let's try to avoid that, as again, these are predicted. It's trying to trick us into conflict. And if we do that, we can't achieve the objective. All right, let's talk about the objective quick. So, objective is simple. It's really these four first person perspectives and these four third person perspectives, and it's just about balancing them all. When you're making a decision, you really need to think about everybody in your family, in your community, and then you have to start to scale your decisions up and say, well, if I make these decisions, is it going to be good for the individuals? Is it going to be good for families? What happens if a bunch of individuals and families make those choices I'm making? How does that make our nation and our world look? You have to be able to scale up, and the better the choices are, the more people that we can replicate those choices. If the choices are destructive, that's how I would classify this. You either make choices that are constructive or you make choices that are destructive, just like how these frequencies interact with us. If we're out of balance with these frequencies, it's destructive, meaning there's destructive interference and it accelerates our aging and it causes the disease. It basically beats us up or destroys us from the inside out if we're out of balance with them. If we're in balance with them, it's the exact opposite. It's constructive. It helps your body become healthier and stay healthier. All right, so we're trying to help people understand this concept because it's really easy and there is no middle ground. You're balanced, you got constructive interference. You're imbalanced, you have destructive interference. Now, tomorrow you can see there's a little bit more going on in the upper extremities. They're testing just a little bit higher, but there's definitely testing happening in the lower extremities too in this 12-hour segment. Okay. So let's move into the 24-hour graph. And the 24-hour graph, you can see I divided it. And I divided it because on this side, the first 12 hours, this is the 2-4 emotional sequence. And on this side, this is when the 2-3 emotional sequence is going to start. Now, I want you to see what happens here, okay? So the 2-4 is a third person perspective emotional sequence. Now look at how it's raising third person tension. This is dancing around 2, jumping up to 4, and then right at the end of the 12-hour segment we're talking about here, it jumps up to about 5 or 6. And then in a split second, when the 2-3 starts, you can see how it picks up on the first person perspectives are then going to be agitated. Now, we're going to talk about this in another video. When the 2-3 starts, after this 12-hour sequence ends, we're going to do another video. We're going to talk all about the 2-3. We're going to look at the 6.5 day sequence for the 2-3. That's what we're going to do then, okay? So let's look at the objective. Well, actually, let's do the alignments here first. So there are two significant alignments, and this is why. So when a emotional sequence ends, it will always pair with a corresponding frequency at the P level, the capital P. So tomorrow is going to be an E24 and an 24P. So the 24 and the 24 match up. It is a perfect frequency match, which means it's an exclamation point at the end of this emotional sequence. It is going to create strong, long frequencies that are going to be felt by many people. Now, if you happen to be trying to sleep during this 12 hours, it is not going to be uncommon for people to wake up tomorrow with sore necks and sore shoulders if they're out of balance with these frequencies. We're going to talk about the space alignment first. The space alignment is this blue one right here. Now, this doesn't happen until the very end of that 12-hour sequence. So the last 3 hours of this next 12-hour sequence is going to be testing upper left quadrant. That has to do specifically with your relationship with the concept of a mother, mature females. Now, I'm not getting into the relationships. This is outlined in all of the steps that we have for you and how this technology works and what the objective is. Definitely go review that. Now, there is a section where we're really going to get into relationship stuff, but right now what we're doing is we're just predicting and telling you where it's likely you're going to hurt if you're out of balance with these relationships. So, if you're wake up in the morning, if you're one of those people sleeping in this sequence and you wake up and you've got left shoulder problems, well, what we got to do is we got to figure out how to help you with not just your own personal relationship with your mother, but the concept of mature women and how to have a relationship with them that's mutually beneficial to you, them, and everybody else. Okay, let's talk about the other alignment now. The other alignment's on the time side. That alignment goes the entire 12 hours. Now, this one is really going to increase the stress load on this shoulder right here, right shoulder. And this has to do with the world perspective. So if you're currently living and your routine doesn't really take in the idea of leaving this world a better place, this would be like dotting I's and crossing T's, is what I call this. It's the low hanging fruit. It's making sure you're recycling, making sure that you're watching how much energy you use, watching how much water you use. It's being aware that we are affecting the climate and that if we don't take the appropriate actions as individuals, you'll find out. You will wake up tomorrow if you're one of those people that doesn't think the environment's a big concern and you don't have any part of your routine that makes it a part of your concern. I promise you, you're going to feel some stuff on the right side, no doubt about it. Now, this doesn't just mean the shoulder. This can be chest pain, this can be headaches, this can be visual changes, this can be all kinds of stuff. All right. So be aware that that one's going to be long and that's going to be strong. Lots of people, if they're sleeping, going to be waking up with sore necks and shoulders. Okay. Now, if you're awake during this period, you're probably going to be feeling this too. And if you are, no worries. We know what the problem is. We can definitely help you in the future. It's just a matter of making some changes in your routine and expanding your point of view to understand your choices matter. Okay. So the alignment portion is done. Let's get down here now and let's talk about what's going on here. So in the first 12-hour segment, you can see it's a little bit different than the second 12-hour segment. In the first 12-hour segment, we've got 2 to 4 here for the upper left, and the right's a little bit stronger. So not only is the right testing harder tomorrow, but you got to remember that's a right-sided right there the whole way. This is a 6.5 day. The E is a 6.5 day. The P is a 12-hour frequencies, and they're not the strongest, but this is going to be long enough that it's going to be noticeable. So right shoulder, if I was in practice still, I'd be seeing right shoulder stuff, 12-hour section during this. And in the next 12-hour section is when you're going to get it because you're going to start to feel it here. This is when you're going to try to fix it is over here. All right, so now we're looking at the left and right lower quadrant. They're pretty much equaled up. Now, what we didn't talk about here yet is the macro positions. Now, the macro positions are the strongest frequencies, and I've aligned them on what sides and what quadrants of the body they're going to be testing. And you can see, again, we've got quite a bit going on here on both sides. We've got right side, we've got 1, 2, 3, 4, and on the left side, we've got 1, 2, 3, 4. On the right side, we've got 3 macros up in that right shoulder area. Again, this is another reason I'm suggesting that right shoulder is going to be an area for people sleeping or for people awake. That's where they're most likely going to notice this. Now, could they notice their left shoulder? Absolutely. Especially during this 3-hour alignment right here. That's going to amplify. So that wouldn't be uncommon. And then don't forget that the capital M and the capital M, they're the ear frequencies, they're not going anywhere. So it's possible people are going to be having some low back tension too. But again, if I'm putting money on things right here, right shoulder, that's the one a lot of people are going to feel, probably the majority of people. All right. That's pretty good stuff. Oh, now, couple things here on these graphs, and we didn't talk about this yet. So we've got 2 ways now in order for you to check in on when these polarity points are happening. So we have 24 offsets here for you. And what you do is you just find your time offset. And then once you see your time offset here, like I'm -4, that's Eastern time zone. I would take a picture of -4, and then that aligns these time fields with what's going on. And I just save that in my phones and my photos, and I pull that photo up during the day if I need it. Now, if you've got internet all day long, or you've got great cell coverage. We do this because not everybody has great internet service. Not everybody has good cell coverage, especially in rural areas. So we want you to be able to take a pic and have it with you so that you can have this at all times. Now, if you have internet, look at this. We made this too easy for you. So on the space-time clocks on our homepage, we actually have this graph right there, and a time bar going through it that's live. You can open that up at any time. So let's say somebody just had an argument with you and it caught you by surprise. Like you were like, what was that about? I didn't even know I did anything to upset them. And they just went off at you. Before you get upset and retaliate, open up your app, look at the space-time live feed, and it's going to have a time bar. And if you see it's at a polarity moment, if it's at any one of these peaks, it is a trap. It is trying to trick you into conflict, which is definitely not going to make things better. So when you're done watching this video, make sure you go down to the bottom of the page here. It's super simple. I can't make it any simpler for this. You can literally put the space-time clocks with this electromagnetic guide right on your home screen, pinned to your home screen at any time. Just touch it, it expands, and you see what's going on. All right. That's pretty cool stuff. Listen, we're going to see you in 12 hours. This is a fast one. So 12 hours, we're going to do the 2, 3, and it's a busy day. That's a real busy one. So get ready here. So for people that are trying to sleep tonight, I hope you get good sleep. And for people that are awake, I hope you make it through this one without too much discomfort. All right. Talk to you soon.